This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
This is how we roll. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we
roll. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Trump Flight 1600 with nonstop service to Canada. We'd like to welcome all our celebrity defectors, and we'll get you out of America just as soon as the tower clears us for takeoff. Once we reach our cruising altitude, flight attendants will pass through the cabin, collecting your U.S. citizenship renouncement forms and serving complimentary beverages and disposable crying towels. And once we reach the drop zone, you'll be guided to the exit ramp at the rear of the plane, where you'll take a crash course on parachute folding and be jettisoned shortly thereafter. We'd like to thank you for choosing Trump Airlines and hope you have a soft landing. Bye-bye.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
Wow, you witnessed a political miracle. You did it, and I could not be any happier than I am today because this election is about the forgotten man. Anyway, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of this extravaganza. There's so much to get to, and there's so little time. On days like this, I have to slow myself down, and I will. We'll also check in with our pollsters later, John McLaughlin and Doug Schoen. How could they have been so wrong? You know, the exit polls last night had me before I even got off the air, I was telling my staff here, and I didn't want to make you nervous or I didn't want to deflate you because I never believe exit polls. How many days in a row now have I been warning you that don't believe the exit polls? Don't believe them. Because they turned out to be so wrong and so off base, the media, the analysis. I mean, even at 9 o'clock at night, well, Hillary's going to come in with a mandate. It looks like it's going to be a landslide for Hillary, and Hillary's going to do this, and Hillary, and we've got all that on tape, and we'll get to that later in the program. But that's not what this election is about. Now, I know I told you as of today that there's unfinished business for me. And part of it is that there are so many things, so many people, groups of people that have been so reckless, so irresponsible, so myopic, if you will, about this election. They could never see the big picture. My anger at the Republican Party has never been greater than it is now. It would be easy for me to follow up on that promise and name names today, but I'm not going to do it. And the reason is there's just no point. I will be dealing with other unfinished business by the end of the week, and that is an abusively biased, fundamentally at its core, corrupt news media. It is an absolute disgrace, the media in this country. We have an informational crisis in America it's literally on life support. And they are doing you a disservice. And they pretend to be one thing and fair and balanced and objective, and they're not. And they never have been. And it's so bad that the level of collusion is beyond the pale. And it's usually coming from the very people that are so highly critical of the fact that I am honest about being a conservative. One of the things that I am most appreciative about my job is you give me this microphone every day. You give this opportunity to me every day. You are my boss. You hire me. And if you, for some reason, if I don't do a good job and you don't listen anymore and you don't watch Hannity anymore, I will be fired. It is a reality of the business that I have chosen. And it is in my mind because I have to serve you, and I think the best way to serve you is to be honest and truthful. And I tried to do that in this election cycle, and I am proud. And I told my staff today, I thanked all of them because, like in 2007 and 2008, in many ways, we went out on a limb. And there were many, many times in 2007 and 2008 where even my friends were calling me saying, you're going to ruin your career. You're done. You're going way too far. You're pushing this so hard. Black liberation theology and Frank Marshall Davis and Reverend Wright and Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn and Father Flager and Alinsky and Acorn and, voting present and everything else that I would go through. And for the first time in my adult life, I am proud of my country and all of this. But that's who I am. I felt an obligation to you to go out on that tree branch, and if I was going to stand out there alone, there were a couple of others that were with me. I'm not saying I'm unique, but it was pretty much the us at times, because I feel I owe you that. I am very proud in spite of what other people say. Linda says to me first thing I walk into the articles were written. Biggest losers in the campaign. Sean Hannity. And I knew that would have happened if Donald Trump lost yesterday, and I was fully comfortable and prepared and at peace and at ease with whatever fire was coming my way. Because I knew what this election was really about, and the only question I had is whether or not the people would come through. There is a friend of mine I'm not a big art guy. I don't understand art. I've taken art history classes. If I look at the Sistine Chapel, I am absolutely dazzled, amazed, inspired at talent that I know that I don't have. And one guy that I really like because of the themes of his work is my friend John McNaughton. I bought one, two, at least three, maybe four paintings from him now. I don't remember. Anyway, he had written he had his masterful painting, his signature painting is called The Forgotten Man. And I put it up on my website if you want to take a look. Is it up there now? Yeah, if you want to take a look at it. Because this is what this election was about for me. And the only question I had is whether or not people were hearing me. And it's amazing that so much analysis last night was so wrong and so bad and so out of touch with what was going on in this country. It was beyond frustrating to listen to half of it. And I just preferred to do my own analysis of, all right, how many votes are out in Milwaukee County? How many votes are out in Broward and Miami-Dade? How many votes? Why isn't Hamilton County coming back stronger than I thought it would? What are the votes in Cuyahoga County in Ohio? And so that's how I spent the majority of my night. I didn't go to the Hilton. I didn't go to the party. I stayed home, and I stayed up all night. And I literally am on less than an hour's sleep. So if I sound incoherent at any point during the program, or if you hear something like this, that will be my head dropping to the desk where I'm now doing this radio program. But here's what they missed. And this is what this election was about. All year long, I told you every single day on this program what this election would be about, what this election should be about. And it really, now I just have a name for it. The painting captures what it's about, The Forgotten Man, and it's called The Forgotten Man. Amity Shales wrote the book, The Forgotten Man. I'm not originating this. But there's a reason well beyond me wanting to repeat myself every day. I went on with my friends Rick and Bubba this morning, and I think it was Rick that said to me, yeah, my son says, there's Hannity, he's giving out the stats, 95 million Americans out of the labor force. But I want to say it in a little different way today, because this is what the election was about. We have so many millions of our fellow citizens that are suffering so badly, that have been so mistreated, that have been so betrayed by the political class, that this culminated in one of the most historic elections in American history yesterday. They are the forgotten people that stood up to the media establishment. Yes, the Republican Party establishment that wasn't supporting Trump. The Democratic Party establishment that wasn't supporting Trump. And the globalist establishment that does not have your best interests at heart. And the thing about Trump, he was able to do all of this with all of this opposition in front of him. There were very, very few of us that saw the potential and listened to his ideas about how to fix the economy, get people back to work. But when we have a situation where we have nearly 50 million Americans, 50 million in poverty, 8 million more under Obama, 50 million on food stamps, 13 million more Americans on food stamps under Obama. When you have a situation where you have the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, 95 million of our fellow citizens that can no longer find jobs or work. When you have the worst recovery since the 1940s, when you have the lowest home ownership rate in 51 years, when you have 1 in 5 American families that don't have a single member of their family that has a job, and 1 in 6 American families, 1 in 6 American men 18 to 34 that are either in jail or out of work living in mommy's basement, and you see corporations leaving in droves, when you see that there's trillions and trillions of dollars of multinational corporation parked overseas because Washington will so screw these companies that they can't afford to bring the money back and invest in factories in Michigan and factories in Wisconsin and manufacturing centers in Pennsylvania and manufacturing centers in Ohio. And when in all the process a president, I guess the shovel ready, jobs aren't so shovel ready. When you have a government that makes a solemn promise and vow that you're going to keep your doctor, keep your plan, the average family saves $2,500 a year, and people by the millions lose their doctor's plans and pay under Obama up till this year an additional $4,100 a year as wages have gone down. When African Americans vote for Obama 93%, and after 8 years, you have a 58% increase of black Americans on food stamps. A 20% increase black Americans out of the labor force. And then we accumulate in the process, not only is spending the money we have, record money that we take in, enough, then we rob our kids blind and have a president accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. Peace and prosperity drive elections. What happened yesterday is all of those people, those statistics, the millions in poverty on food stamps out of the labor force, not when you have 60% of black teens can't get a summer job. All of those people united and said enough is enough. And Republicans that promised that they would repeal and replace Obamacare but wouldn't use their constitutional power of the purse because they care more about their own power, they're probably worse than the Democrats. And the Republicans that say they believe in limited government, and yet they accumulated more debt under John Boehner, nearly $5 trillion in new Boehner debt, because he didn't want to shut the government down or get blamed for a government shutdown because he put himself and his members ahead of what was right for the forgotten men and women in this country. And then when you have 2014 as a referendum and on the whole issue of stopping illegal, unconstitutional executive amnesty that Obama himself admitted 30 times was illegal and unconstitutional. And then when they get the Senate and they say they're going to do it, then they pass Cromnibus, say they're going to defund the Department of Homeland Security. And the Senate, just like the House, didn't have the courage to stand up for the promises they made to the American people. What happened yesterday is not hard to figure out. Government has failed we, the people, on a spectacular level. Instead of me spending my time naming names, instead of me wasting my time with grievances with people that were so ignorant, blind, and stupid that they would rather Hillary have been appointing the next Supreme Court justices, I'd rather focus in on how do we get those factories, those manufacturing centers, those jobs back, people out of poverty, off of food stamps. How do we get energy independent? How do we get our budget balanced? What do we replace Obamacare with? What are the health care savings accounts? How is that going to transition? How do we get education back to the states? How do we get the wall built? How do we rebuild our dilapidated military? And all of those solutions. By the end of the week, if I can find the energy, I've started working on what the plan is. Because I care, because my roots are the same roots as all of the people that spoke so loudly yesterday. The decade being the dishwasher, the cook, the waiter, the busboy, the bartender, the painter, the paper hanger, the tile layer, the roofer, the framer. Couple of decades of my life. That's what I'm going to focus on. Because that's what matters. You know what? For whatever little time God keeps me behind this microphone on TV, that's all I care about. I love this country. I'm so proud of all of you and what you did yesterday. I got so much more to tell you. Hey, listen, if you want to, we made some choices yesterday. It was amazing what happened. We'll get into all of this.
Hannity Headline, a bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Trump Flight 1600 with nonstop service to Canada. We'd like to welcome all our celebrity defectors, and we'll get you out of America just as soon as the tower clears us for takeoff. Once we reach our cruising altitude, flight attendants will pass through the cabin, collecting your U.S. citizenship renouncement forms and serving complimentary beverages and disposable crying towels. And once we reach the drop zone, you'll be guided to the exit ramp at the rear of the plane, where you'll take a crash course on parachute folding and be jettisoned shortly thereafter. We'd like to thank you for choosing Trump Airlines and hope you have a soft landing. Bye-bye.
All right, glad you're with us. 25 now till the time. That's done by a friend of ours from Atlanta. I thought that was hilarious. Now, we did make the offer, and I'm going to stand by my pledge. Any of these celebrities that were saying if Trump wins, they're going to leave, and there's a total freak out. If they want to go to the country of their choice, I will charter the plane. I'll put on champagne, wishes, and caviar dreams, and we'll get ready, and we'll fly you to that country. There is one stipulation. And I see Barry Diller wants to leave over the shock. The stipulation is simple. And that is that if we pay for your ticket, well, if I pay for your plane out of here, you never come back. And if you come back, and it's going to be a lifestyle change for you on the plane, it'll be gold-plated everything in Donald Trump style. It'll be filled with champagne wishes and caviar dreams. Look at this elaborate bedroom that will take you straight out of the United States into the communist socialist regime of your choice. And we'll put steaks. We'll make it really good for you. Let's see. Bryan Cranston, Samuel L. Jackson. He said, I'm moving my black blah, blah, blah to South Africa, he said to Jimmy Kimmel. Lena Dunham. You know, a lot of people have been threatening to do this, but I really will. I know a lovely place in Vancouver. Okay. Nev Campbell. I used to like her. She was a good actress. What happened to her? Anyway, she said she would move back to Canada while Orange is the New Black actress, Natasha Lyonne, would hightail it to a mental hospital. Okay, we can arrange that if you want. Cher tweeted this summer that if Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Jupiter. Okay, I don't think I can help you with the Jupiter flight. It's got to be, somewhere on the planet Earth. Miley Cyrus wrote back in March in tears that I'm moving if he is the president. I don't say things I don't mean. Barbara Streisand told 60 Minutes, I'm either coming to your country if you'll let me in or Canada. Okay. Neo told TMZ he moved to Canada. Let's see. Amy Schumer said in September the Spain would be her destination of choice. Chelsea Handler said she'd already made contingency plans months ago. I did buy a house in another country just in case, she said on Live with Kelly and Michael. So these people that threaten to leave the country, I actually will leave the country, she said. Jon Stewart, little Johnny, with his head up Obama's you-know-what, said he'd consider getting in a rocket and going to another planet. What? Can he take Cher with him? Maybe they'll save money. Maybe they'll get the group rate. Because the planet's gone bonkers if Trump wins. Whoopi Goldberg. We want Whoopi to stay. Whoopi's always been nice to me. Oh, she said white lash this morning, too, like Van Jones? Good grief. I don't even know. George Lopez said he won't have to worry about immigration. If Trump takes the White House, we'll all go back. Ruth Bader Ginsburg joked in an interview that it'd be the time to move to New Zealand if Trump wins. Al Sharpton earlier this year said he's reserving my ticket to get out of here. All right, well, listen, the offer stands, but you can't come back, and I'll pay for the trip. All right, I think that's a fair offer. Let me go over again a little bit more what this is about, because nobody's getting this. It's really amazing to me. You want to hear something funny, Linda? You're going to love this. I got a text from a pastor friend of mine. He's a pastor, for crying out loud. I mean, I'm even getting beat up by pastors on all of this stuff, which is a little bit annoying, when the pastor and the people in the pulpit, those are the guys that can drive you crazy. But anyway, let's see. I can't even find. Oh, here it is. He writes, thanks for repeating the stats and issues about this election every day. It did get annoying listening to it every day, but so is my alarm going off in the morning. It just wakes me up. I'm like, really, Pastor? These are millions of Americans suffering, and there's only one person that was ever talking about them was me. And so that's where we are. And, I haven't even mentioned how bad foreign policy is. I mean, I'm betting that the world, you saw the markets last night, the markets went nuts, and oh my God, the unknown. I don't even know. What's the Dow? The Dow actually went up today when I looked last. They were up by a lot. So I guess the market said, oh, maybe it's not so bad after all. We can deal with this. Listen, we just dealt with 8 years of the single most radical, incompetent person ever to hold the White House. He doesn't hold a candle to Donald Trump. He had no experience, and it showed every day. It's up 265, the Dow today. So I guess everything didn't go to hell in a handbasket. But this is really, what Trump was up against here was a media establishment that I'm going to deal. I am putting aside time to deal with this corrupt media establishment. I promise you. I just don't want to deal with it today. It was the Republican establishment. It was the Democratic establishment. And it's really this globalist establishment. And this is what happened with Brexit. And this is a political earthquake. And I am saying to the Republican Party, I made a comment last night about, I don't know if Paul Ryan will be speaker in January. You know what? And I thought about it later, and then I tweeted out. I said, it's not my decision. If Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress, it's almost like we have to hit the reset. And if the Republican Party, and Brett Baer asked me this question last night, he said, well, how is Donald Trump going to get along with the Republicans in the House? And I said, no, that's not the right question. How are they going to get along with his agenda? Because his agenda was the mandate agenda. You know, on the one hand, for those of you that decided to take this leap of faith yesterday and just said you're so disgusted you can't take it anymore, you know, this is, on the one hand, so complicated to fix, but on the other hand, it's really easy. It's not that complicated if you put a number of big ideas together, and this is going to be Donald Trump's biggest test in the next year, really 8 months. He's got to get this done. And that is, can he put in place the pieces to repair the damage and put us on a trajectory towards growth that will result in 3 years, because it took Reagan about 3 years to start seeing the benefits of his plan being implemented. Remember, next year's economy is going to be Obama's economy. So it's, you can't expect it unless they can do something in January to pull back on some of this and put other means in place. Look, if Donald Trump will do the following, number one, the Supreme Court justice issue, we just saved this country for generations. That's huge. But just on the economy, if he can drop the corporate tax rate to 15%, if he can, half of you Americans, by the way, that are so worried, you're not going to pay a penny in federal income taxes, not one cent. And if he can drop it to 15%, if he can allow the repatriation of trillions of multinational corporations, for example, he said 10%. What if he said, we'll let you bring all your money back for 8%, but you got to spend, $50 million in Detroit. You got to spend $50 million in Philadelphia, the city. You got to spend $50 million in the outskirts of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Ohio. And in other words, wherever the highest unemployment numbers are, wherever people need help the most, bring that money there. If we allow fracking to continue and really expand it, number one, we have more energy, the lifeblood of our economy, than the entire Middle East combined. But the added benefit is not only national security benefits, but millions and millions of high-paying jobs and careers for so many Americans. If we open the Keystone Pipeline now, if we get rid of Obama's regulations, as he was so beholden to the Flat Earth Society, global warming, global temperature cooling, I can't figure out whether it's cooling or warming crowd, that's going to be huge for the economy. So if he puts a package together that eliminates Obamacare, replaces it with health care savings accounts, if he puts together an energy independence plan where a goal is to be energy independent in 4 years, if he puts that with a tax plan that allows trillions to flood into the economy with the incentive to help out the highest unemployment areas of the country, including the reason these states finally went Republican, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania and Ohio, because they're desperate. And that's why this is the forgotten man election. And if he would do that just on the economy, just that there, if he'd build the wall so competition from illegal immigrants for the few jobs that are available goes away, and we have the added bonus of national security, Al-Qaeda and ISIS can't cross, and then if he would say, okay, we're going to help Syrian refugees, but all the other countries have to pay, including Middle Eastern countries need to pony up the money so that we can provide the food, medicine, water supplies, and baby formula to help the victims of a civil war in Syria, well, then we don't have to go through the arduous process of trying to vet people that come from cultures and societies where they think men have a right to tell women how to dress and that women can't drive and that gays and lesbians get killed and that jihad and the caliphate is to be advanced for those that are radicalized only. We don't have to risk making bad decisions with vetting, and we're still helping people out. If he can just start with those basic, simple things, lowering taxes, incentivizing the trillions to come back, moving towards energy independence for national security and economic reasons, if he eliminates, potential radical Islamists like Clapper and Comey and Steinbeck and Brennan and McCall and Colonel Allen we're talking about, that's huge. Not having competition because of illegal immigrants, that's huge. Getting rid of criminal aliens, that's huge. I loved his proposal for a new deal for Black America. If he makes it a priority that we're going to take the federal government out of education And he should take it into Detroit, take it into New York City, take it into Chicago public schools, take it into South Central Los Angeles. Take it into the worst school districts and say, okay, we're going to give it to your state, your community, and it's your responsibility now to educate your kids. Here's the money. Go do it right. I think the parents' involvement and accountability at the local level is going to improve education dramatically. And then it's predicated on the belief, the Latin derivative for education is educare, to bring forth from within. In other words, that believes that every child born has talent, and we just got to nurture that talent, water that talent, put a little sunshine on that talent, and you never know what's going to come out of these kids. Brilliance and genius and invention and who knows what. So those are the things that I think, identify our enemy. And if they try to test Trump needs to hit them so hard that their great-great-great-grandmothers in the grave will feel the vibration of that hit. And if he does that, guess what's not going to happen? They won't mess with us. That's going to take a lot of work because we've let our guard down. We've gone back to a pre-9/11 mentality. But to me, this is what this election was about. Probably like many of you, I just can't wait to roll up our sleeves and get going. And I just say this to Republicans and Democrats. You have failed at a level that is almost incomprehensible. I hope we have term limits, and I hope we implement them, because maybe you'll stop the political calculation whenever it comes a tough moment to take a tough stand and follow through on a tough promise like replacing Obamacare, the parts you can, and actually doing it and not being afraid your career's going to blow up because you might get fired by your constituents. Maybe if you know you only have 6 years there, you won't give a damn because you're going back to your other life and you'll be there to do what's right for the American people. The reason there is so much suffering in this country is a lot of it is caused by government. These are simple, basic, common sense solutions. You bring in trillions that is parked offshore. You lower the corporate tax rate. Multinational corporations will flood into the U.S. They'll build their factories and manufacturing centers. Make sure we go to the areas that need it most first. You can give them tax incentives to do that. Energy independence will help. We'll eliminate Obamacare. Competition will lower the cost and price and choice of every American. Energy independence jobs are going to be amazing. And that's what I'm focused on. All these people said, Hannity, you're in this for ratings. No, I'm in this because I'm tired of seeing my fellow Americans suffer. And the guy that worked in restaurants for a decade and constructions for a decade wants to see the rungs put back in the ladder so people can climb out of poverty and off of food stamps and out of the unemployment line and back to success. That's what I'm praying for, and that's what the Forgotten Man election is all about.
This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
This is how we roll. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Trump Flight 1600 with nonstop service to Canada. We'd like to welcome all our celebrity defectors, and we'll get you out of America just as soon as the tower clears us for takeoff. But once we reach our cruising altitude, flight attendants will pass through the cabin, collecting your U.S. citizenship renouncement forms and serving complimentary beverages and disposable crying towels. Once we reach the drop zone, you'll be guided to the exit ramp at the rear of the plane, where you'll take a crash course on parachute folding and be jettisoned shortly thereafter. We'd like to thank you for choosing Trump Airlines and hope you have a soft landing. Bye-bye.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll.
behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen. This candidacy starting on an escalator ride 1 year ago and going down against 16 Republican candidates. What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
As I've said from the beginning, ours was not a campaign, but rather an incredible and great movement made up of millions of hardworking men and women who love their country and want a better, brighter future for themselves and for their family. It's a movement comprised of Americans from all races, religions, backgrounds, and beliefs who want and expect our government to serve the people, and serve the people it will. Working together, we will begin the urgent task of rebuilding our nation and renewing the American dream. I've spent my entire life in business looking at the untapped potential in projects and in people all over the world. That is now what I want to do for our country. Tremendous potential. I've gotten to know our country so well. Tremendous potential. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
And hour two, by the way, Sean Hannity Show. Glad you are with us. And that's what I've been calling this, the Forgotten Man Election. John McNaughton, who is a great artist out in Salt Lake City, this has been his signature painting. We have been negotiating the price on this thing for years, and I bought the painting today. It's up on my website, and I want Donald Trump to take it with him to Washington so he never forgets about why he's there. Because those are the people of Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Ohio and all across this country that is so red today that are saying, please, please help get this country moving again. And that's what it's been about. Now, our next guest has been with us the entire time, this entire election season, both on radio and TV, and I think I will impose on him one more time tonight to join us on Hannity on the Fox News channel, and I might give him a night off after that. I had two moments in my life where I watched political miracles unfold before my eyes. One was last night, and one was the night that I got to MC in 1994 at the Cobb Galleria in Georgia, and the night for the first time in 40 years where Republicans took control of the House of Representatives. The person that was the architect of that great revolution, because it was a revolution at the time, that was an ideas-driven revolution to help make America better, and promises were made and promises were kept. That's a refreshing thing for government anytime, was former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, has also become one of my closest friends. How are you?
I'm doing great, and last night was just unbelievable because we found ourselves staying up till 4 in the morning, and it was just, towards the end there when they would bounce back and forth from let's look at Wisconsin, let's look at Michigan, let's look at Pennsylvania, let's look at New Hampshire. Then they go back and start over again. It was really a remarkable experience to watch the rural votes come in and the small town votes come in. And the sheer turnout in those communities, defeating the big cities, which is what really happened. Detroit lost in Michigan, Philadelphia lost in Pennsylvania, Milwaukee lost in Wisconsin, and you had really quite an election night, something you and I had dreamed of, had thought was possible. But Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit because he had the courage to go everywhere, to campaign 3 or 4 times as many places as Hillary, and it paid off for him. And then I thought his acceptance speech was as gracious and as inclusive and as positive as you could have hoped for, and I hope that it sets the right tone. And I must say, I think that Hillary responded in kind this morning and that President Obama responded in kind. So we may be moving towards a transition that will be as exciting as the campaign.
The more cynical side of me remembers Republicans, they can get on board, but they're in the back of the bus. I just kind of remember that, too. But I'll be gracious today, Mr. Speaker. Is this really, though, about the forgotten man? And I mean, my biggest criticism, and I think this was showing up very early in this process in all the primary polls where 65% of Republicans felt betrayed by their party. And to me, there needs to be a major realignment. And maybe one of the first things they need to do is implement term limits so these guys are not so driven by their desire to hang on to power, and maybe they'll be more inclined to be public servants and serve their constituencies and do the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing may mean putting your own career in jeopardy and using your enumerated constitutional power of the purse, one of my biggest criticisms of Republicans. What do you think? What do we need to do here? Where do we need to go from here? And how do you interpret all of this? Because you're the great historian.
Well, I was explaining to a group of rural cooperatives in Charleston this morning, people who represent 40 million rural constituents and who were one of the bases of Trump's victory. And we were talking about this sort of extraordinary moment in American history. It's the third one I participated in. The first was Reagan in 80, and the second was the contract in 94. And I think what Trump has to do next is figure out the key things that will profoundly shift the system and focus on rallying the nation, explaining why they matter, and getting them done in the first 6 to 8 months of next year. And I think it's really important. Reagan had a knack of creating, I used to talk about it as Reagan understood that lions had done antelopes and zebras. They couldn't afford to hunt chipmunks, because chipmunks were just plain too small. Mm-hmm. And Reagan had 3 big antelopes. He had renew the American economy, rebuild the spirit of American civic culture, defeat the Soviet Empire. And he got up every morning and remind himself, these are my 3. And Trump has got to figure out what are the changes so large. They can't be small. The small changes get absorbed by Washington. They've got to be changes so big that by the end of the first year, people go, electing Donald Trump, giving the Republicans the House and the Senate was the right thing to do because this is different and my life is going to become better. It doesn't have to come better overnight.
Well, it can't be fixed overnight. It's impossible.
Right. But people have to have a sense that we're now moving in the right direction, and it's the direction of returning power to the American people, returning opportunity to the American people, and creating an America in which government is the servant, government's not the dictator.
Can I give you my best shot at what he ought to do, what 3 of the big ideas ought to be combined?
Sure.
On the economy, it's the repatriation of trillions at a low tax rate, maybe even a lower tax rate if you're willing to build your factory in Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And I'm not saying that for electoral votes because those are the people who have suffered the most and have lost so many millions of jobs. Next thing, maybe, and that would include, as part of the economy, the 3 tax brackets, the lowest corporate tax rate in the world, or one of the lowest at 15%. That would include energy jobs and a goal of energy independence in 4 years. And that would include Obamacare and eliminating it and replacing it with health savings accounts. That would be the economic shift. And then I think we have to have a secure the country shift. And that would include going forward, building the wall. That would include, safe zones in Syria rather than increasing refugees that we can't possibly vet. And, certainly another thing that I think would be profound is education and certainly building up our military.
Well, I think you're moving in the right direction. I think you can put those.
By the way, you notice now he's talking to me like my older brother again. Here it is. Now you're back to where you were during the campaign. We were getting along so well today.
What should I have said? Oh gosh, Sean, you're so smart. It is such an honor to be allowed to speak with you. I am really grateful for this opportunity. Would that have made you feel better?
Probably, yeah. It would have made me feel a lot better.
Listen, this is. I just want to say to the whole audience, this is a great day to celebrate. Sean and I have worked a long time on this. We believe deeply, passionately about getting this country back on track, and this is this is a wonderful day to celebrate the American system and the American experience, and the fact that with the entire establishment, this was like Brexit, with the entire establishment on the other side, with the news media totally on the other side, with $1 billion campaign on the other side, and with the incumbent president of the United States on the other side, the American people won. And I think and Trump was very good last night about saying that. It wasn't just about him winning. It was the American people who had won. And in winning, they have created a movement that will, in fact, have a real opportunity to fundamentally change Washington.
It really is so necessary. That is the relief to me. I mean, so many people are writing me and they're so happy. And I don't know why. I never let my brain sort of go in that direction. I'm just thinking, all right, good. Now we got a chance. Let's roll up our sleeves and try and fix it. But it's just the way my mind works. I want to get to work. I want these things to get going. I want to put the rungs back in the ladder so people could start climbing up again and hope an opportunity to return. And, one of the things I was thinking going forward, I loved, and I think this was underplayed by the media for sure, I loved Trump's New Deal for Black America, where, we're not going to sit back and watch 4,000 more people get killed in Chicago in the next 8 years. We're not going to watch 3,000 more get shot like they have so far this year. And that there's, if you just have security and good policing and a commitment to really fixing a broken, dilapidated educational system and removing bad elements and guns and drugs in communities, and you show that the Republican Party is not just going to ask for your vote 4 years. They're going to follow through and make things better. What an opportunity this would be to shift the demographics in this country once and for all as they should be.
Well, and it's a great chance to have Americans work for a better future and move in that direction. You were saying earlier about the bringing home, repatriating the money overseas. One of the places is to create what Jack Kemp used to talk about. That's enterprise zones, to take the poorest neighborhoods in our biggest cities and turn them into great opportunities to start small businesses. If you combine it with physical safety and you combine it with education reform, you could actually have a boom in a place like Detroit or a place like Baltimore. But the old power structure, the old bureaucracy, the old unions would be the losers in that setting, and that's a fight we have to wage. That we want to give everyone a chance at a better future, not have people basically exploited by a handful of big institutions.
What do you think for yourself? I mean, you have been an advisor to Mr. Trump or President-elect Trump now for a long time and throughout this process. I know you spoke with him often. Would you consider a role in his administration?
Well, I would like to be sort of the senior planner trying to think through how we fundamentally, at the most basic levels, restructure the federal government. I don't think it's possible to do one of the major jobs, running one of the departments, and think strategically. I think that the sheer weight of daily decision-making, daily crises, the news media, the Congress, the White House staff, those are such extraordinary, absorbing jobs that I think we've never had somebody who had the opportunity to simply lay out very large-scale change and then try to move it, whether it's the Veterans Administration or it's rethinking national security or as you point out, rethinking an integrated approach to the big cities. We have all these different programs scattered through the whole federal government. They're not coordinated. They don't work very well. They're very duplicative. They have way too much bureaucracy. But you're not going to fix those, one small thing at a time. So what I did both for Reagan and then what I did as Speaker of the House was try to figure out very large projects like welfare reform, like balancing the federal budget. Those are big enough projects. You cannot afford to get sucked down into small projects or you will not get anything done.
I think that's really important, too. And I think, you're right. There's a time limit here. The honeymoon's going to be over very quick. Those that have fought against Trump, the Republican establishment, Democratic establishment, media establishment, globalist establishment, they are all going to be after him as of tomorrow. So he's going to have a short window where he can really get profound changes in place, and I'd like to see that happen quickly.
I think that's right. And of course, it's going to be a very exciting day tomorrow for those of us who have supported this movement to actually see him at the White House as the next president. That's a pretty remarkable moment.
All right, Mr. Speaker, listen, we can't thank you enough for your insight. You were out on the limb there with us, and there were people that had written Hannity, Gingrich, Drudge, biggest losers of the election. They would have been after all of us. And you know what? But it was never about us, was it? It was about the American people getting jobs and getting our economy and fixing our country. So they never understood. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We'll see you tonight on Hannity. Also Laura Ingraham tonight and Kellyanne Conway tonight. And my analysis tonight at the Hannity Big Board or sitting. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Hannity Headline. A bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com. The one thing you can always count on. Sean Hannity is back on the radio.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. Toll free, our number is 800-941-SEAN. We have a posters coming up at the top of the hour. John McLaughlin and Doug Schoen will join us. They were amazing yesterday in helping us kind of put together what was really, just the worst data. I mean, what did I tell you at 7 o'clock? I said, if these exit polls are right, it's over. I told Linda. I even think I said it before I got off the air, didn't I? You can put your mic on. I did say it.
Yeah, no,
I said, if these polls are right, we're done.
You gave everybody a stomach ache, and I just said,
Well, and then I remember, because I texted you the states. And
yeah,
I said, if these numbers are right, we're done. It's
every
over.
time a text came up from you, I went, oh, God. What?
Well, I mean, look, I believe in polls, but only up to a point.
No, we don't believe in exit polls.
Yeah, I know.
Because
no,
knew.
not eggs. We were warning people for days. I was warning people on this program for days. Don't believe
especially
them.
even yesterday.
The exit polls are the worst.
And I mean, people on the West Coast still had to go out. And
yeah,
vote.
no, it's horrible.
A ton of people who were at work
stop.
all day. It's ridiculous.
And then they got this new company that started, and this new company, let's see, put together by Obama lovers and Bush lovers and Romney people. So I read, and who else? Oh, in Slate magazine.
And listen,
I'm really supposed to trust them.
Soros had no trouble giving them a little bit of cash for the funding and the startup projects. I mean, listen.
I'd always like to know who funds all of these.
Well,
things.
listen, Soros was the one who suddenly all of a sudden had interest in buying up the ballot boxes. It's a slight digression from his normal investment practices.
Anyway, two people were telling me Pennsylvania's going red. Pennsylvania's going red. One is that voice you just heard. She's from Philly. How you doing? Good to talk to you. I'm from Philly. Come on. I'm a Broad Street bully. I was the biggest Broad Street bully fan. Philly Flyers. I wanted to be Bobby Clark in my earlier life. That was Linda. And Rose Tennant, a good friend of the program, as you know, and she fills in sometimes when I'm away. How are you? Congratulations and thank you. And I was always skeptical because all these years Pennsylvania has been that state that was just hanging out there and then, it pulls it back. Not this year.
No, you're right. And I knew it, Sean. I could tell early on in the race by the number of, and I thought it was more than anecdotal, I really did, the number of people that were calling into my show, Democrats that were first-time listeners to the show, people calling me and telling me my mother, my father, my in-laws are all for the first time voting Republican, lifelong Democrats. Also, I was hearing some people that were voting for the first time in a long time, period, and they were all voting for Trump. In several counties in Pennsylvania, Cambria County is one of them, we saw a large turnout of working-class families, people that typically don't vote in those counties for the Republican candidate, and they did. And, Sean, it was so exciting. It was really, really exciting. And you have a weak heart. No, I'm kidding. Yesterday, you should have been. I knew we had it. I knew we had Pennsylvania, and we did. We delivered. And you know what it was, Sean? We had a strong candidate. It couldn't have been anyone else to beat the machine, the cheating machine that we have in PA. Because they know how to cheat. They do it really, really well. They do it often, and they do it always. But we had a candidate for one that could beat the cheating machine. That's
I got to tell you, and Rose, you were amazing. And I remember actually the moment I introduced you to Trump. Because we were at the town hall in Pittsburgh. Remember, I was rolling the yellow towel all around and having a good old time.
Yeah,
that was such a fun. And that's why I like people in Philly and Pittsburgh. It's such a fun, raucous, real people town. And that was one of the most fun events we did the entire election season. That crowd was so off the hook fun. It was amazing.
They were.
And you were right behind me. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Trump, you got to meet Rose Tennant. She's amazing. She's one of your biggest supporters.
Yes, and I'm so glad you did introduce me that day. And it's been a great opportunity for me and for others working on the Trump campaign all throughout the state. I traveled with Michelle Bachmann when the last couple of days of the campaign, talking to evangelical women. I mean, we met with such great success. Sean, I would drive through small towns, humble homes who had a Trump sign out in their yard, where normally you would see a Democrat sign in the yard and pass elections. It was so, I knew it. I could feel it. It was so real leading up to Election Day. And I'm just so thrilled that Pennsylvania was able to deliver for Mr. Trump.
Well, listen, I appreciate all your efforts. And what I'm really happy about and humbled by is the fact that the people, they took their government back yesterday. And they sent a loud, resounding message. And I think the thing that I'm happiest about is the fact that, there's a real good opportunity here to start, righting this ship and getting those rungs in the ladder so people can climb the ladder of success and have opportunity. Look, this is not an easy fix. It took Reagan, really 4 years to begin to see the real benefits of his programs. It wasn't until the third year that things started turning around. So I know people are impatient naturally. It's going to be, undoing this mess is going to be hard, but we can do it. That's the great news.
I think we can. And thank you so much, honestly, from all of us in Pennsylvania, particularly in southwestern PA. You and Linda were such a great help. And if you remember when we went through that whole primary process, which is a mess here in Pennsylvania, you helped us tremendously, and so did Linda. And we'll never forget that. We will never forget that.
Listen, you guys are amazing, and I want to see all those people in Pittsburgh that I got to meet when I was there with you and other places in Pennsylvania. I just want to see them get their cities back. I want to see prosperity for them. I want to see, home ownership rates go up. I want to see the best recovery we've seen in decades. I want to see the labor participation rate be the best ever. I want to see people coming off the food stamp rolls and coming off the poverty rolls, and I want to see the debt go down. I mean, there's a lot of work to do here, but at least I feel we've got a shot, and that's what I'm happiest about. I believe we do, too. All right, God bless you. Rose, we love you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
I hate when I have to say to Linda, you were right. No, I just do, and you hate it when you have to say it to me. Admit it. You hate it.
No.
Yes, you do.
First of all, as long as we've been working together, I always say to you, I'm like, listen, I always admit when I'm wrong, and I apologize.
So do I. By the way,
it may hurt me, but I do it.
Oh, it hurts you. Oh, no. When you apologize, it hurts you.
But you know,
the funny thing is, I kept asking you, but, when you would say Pennsylvania, I can feel it. I can feel it. I know my home state.
What would you say? Don't say it. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. You're putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I think I said I used every cliche. You're right. But I said I also would ask, you really think so? You really believe that? Why do you believe it? And I kept probing and probing and probing. Why? It's always been a tease state. You got to admit, Pennsylvania has been the biggest tease.
Pennsylvania just didn't take her drinks and go. She actually sat down and had dinner with the guy.
Yeah.
She's like, right. I'm ready for the full date.
Last night was the first full date?
It was it.
All right, well, the date better go well.
He got the number. He went home happy.
That's funny.
270, baby.
Johnny, the cab driver, New York City, the all-new AM 710 WOR, the talk of New York, New Jersey, Long Island. How are you, Johnny, the cab driver?
Sean, how are you? I'm the last Irish cab driver in Brooklyn. Sean, I just want to thank you for everything you did for Trump. You really went all out. You were the one guy that knew he could do it, and you just never let up. And you know what? I'm not worried about him. This guy can deal with union contractors and cement guys. He's not going to have any trouble with European leaders or anybody for that matter.
You're not going to take their crap either. I love that.
He's going to do just fine. I think him and Putin are going to get along to the point where there's not going to be any problem.
I actually agree with you. I actually think that there's going to be a nice, healthy fear, I think, of Trump by foreign leaders. It's sort of like the fear they had with Reagan. And I think Donald Trump, everything with him is a negotiation. I'd sit him down and I'd start, all right, I got you for 2 seconds. Can't we just do one? I mean, he naturally negotiates everything. And I'm like, no, I need you for 2 segments. He goes, all right, can you make them quick? Everything is a negotiation. But, Johnny the cab driver, this is really an election for the heart and soul of what makes America great. And that's guys like you. Now, look, you get in your cab. Every cab driver I talk to works 6 days a week. They do 12-hour shifts. The single most aggravating, annoying, and frustrating job in the world, driving in New York traffic. It's awful. And you do it, you make money, you make a living, you put food on your table. I hope you own a house. and you do it and you make the country great. You're providing your fellow man a service. You know what? This election was for you. This is what this election needs to be about, making sure all the Johnny the cab drivers can have all the no, I'm serious. I'm not being flippant here. Can have all the work they could ever want to handle and all the other opportunity they'd ever dream of. Because it's the construction workers, it's the electricians, it's the plumbers, it's the nurses. You know, it's the accountants, even the lawyers, for crying out loud. Lawyers annoy me because they charge me an arm and a leg every time somebody comes after me. But, you know, that's what this, to me, this is what the election's about. So, Johnny the cab driver, you are what makes this country great. God bless you. And well,
listen, Sean, thanks to you and your staff, really.
Well, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Listen, I can't do this show, Johnny, without you every day. Just remember, when times get tough and people want me fired, I need you guys. Thank you.
Sean, thank you. God bless. All right, take care.
All right, buddy. God bless you, too. Let us go. Sean in Palm Beach Gardens in the swing state that came through with flying colors, Florida. How are you, Sean?
Oh, my gosh. I am over the moon. I am so happy. And yes, we were not the state that had the hanging Chad.
Hanging, swinging, dimpled, pimpled, perforated. Oh, my gosh.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for being a true patriot. You don't know how much your reporting has meant to me, my family, my fellow Floridians. And secondly, I just want to say, you know what? Yesterday was about justice being served. The DOJ and the FBI may not have served justice to Hillary Clinton, but the people came out, we voted, our vote counted. And you know what? I kept on saying to people that doubted him winning, I said, I think it's going to be our own Brexit. I really think so. I think so many people are going to come out and they are going to not be able to rig this election. Just trust me. And I also said, you know what? Have faith and pray. And God answered our prayers. And I think we have a great leader in our future. I really do.
I have said this to people whenever they would ask me in the lead up to the election, do you think he'll really be a good president? And I really, really believe he will be a good president. And last night he passed the first test, the first threshold. A lot of people, is he going to be there, crooked Hillary? No, he was gracious. He was conciliatory. He wanted, and then the thing that I admired the most, which is really total Trumpian, he's like, let's roll up our sleeves. I want to get to work. I want to get to work. I've been around this guy. He has no patience for sitting around. I have talked to this guy at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, midnight, 1 a.m., 11 p.m. You have no idea. The guy does not sleep. Look at how he campaigned. He fought like a dog, going to city and town and state after state after state. And you know what? He so outworked Hillary. One of the things I always tell my kids, why I like them they both play tennis. They're both tennis players. And why I like them in an individual sport is because
I'm a tennis pro, by the way.
Are you really? Oh, in Palm Beach Gardens. That's amazing. Yeah. My kids play tournaments down there all the time in Florida.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and they play all the national things, whatever you call them, tournaments.
Right. Good for them.
And so, what's so amazing about it? I tell them, look, your sport represents life. You're going to learn to win and enjoy it. You're going to lose. You're going to have to accept it and be a gracious loser. The harder you work, the better you're going to do. How hard do you want to work at your sport? And I'll give you all the support you want, but you got to do your job. And so it really does mirror life. And Trump proved that. He outworked Hillary.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, too, in 2012, 26 million evangelicals failed to come out to vote for Mitt Romney. And you know what? This is the first time in decades that as many evangelicals came out as they did. It is the evangelicals, along with the people, that helped win this election.
Listen.
And we did it. We all did it.
I'm going to forget names, but there are guys, Jerry Falwell Jr., the president of Liberty, he put his neck on the line, and they pounded him. Absolutely excoriated. Pastor Scott in Cleveland, they pounded this poor man for supporting Trump. Robert Jeffers in Dallas, they pounded. C.L. Bryant. I know I'm going to forget all the pastors involved. So forgive me. I'm going to stop here. I'm not by design. These guys went to the mat, and Jerry Falwell Jr. said it best. We're not electing a pastor-in-chief here. We need somebody that can do the job. And you know what? He took a lot of heat for that, and anybody that's willing to step in the arena and into the fire, I admire a lot, because when you get in the fire, you're going to get burned. And believe me, I got a few singes that I can show you after this election. But anyway, our news roundup information overload is coming up next. Remember, tonight, Hannity, I'm going to explain on TV what happened and why nobody on TV seems to get this. I was so frustrated last night. I mean, finally, they asked me to call in. I said, I'm ready. I'll call. I had so much I wanted to say and so much I still want to say, but we have plenty of days to go through this. Although this is, there's a lot to get to.
This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
This is how we roll. We light it up with our hands up. This is how we
roll. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Trump Flight 1600 with nonstop service to Canada. We'd like to welcome all our celebrity defectors, and we'll get you out of America just as soon as the tower clears us for takeoff. But once we reach our cruising altitude, flight attendants will pass through the cabin, collecting your U.S. citizenship renouncement forms and serving complimentary beverages and disposable crying towels. Once we reach the drop zone, you'll be guided to the exit ramp at the rear of the plane, where you'll take a crash course on parachute folding and be jettisoned shortly thereafter. We'd like to thank you for choosing Trump Airlines and hope you have a soft landing. Bye-bye.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
We burning down the night, shooting bullets at the moon, baby. This is how we roll.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America. Stay right here for our final news roundup and information overload in the final hour of the Sean Hannity Show.
A lot of people have no idea that Trump is headed for a historic defeat. That's why I think the larger the defeat, in a sense, the healthier it will be for the Republican Party, at least if it doesn't bring Paul Ryan's speakership down with him and there's a kind of healthy divided government, because it might be a wake-up call to those Republicans who have existed in this little thought bubble of their own that this isn't a winning form of politics.
Then this election, not only does Florida fall to Hillary Clinton, but this election overall we could be talking landslide. And so
Hillary Clinton today is more likely to win in a landslide that would not only have an impact on this race, but realign the country politically to some extent than Donald Trump is to win narrowly or at all.
It is. I mean, let's say it is a 4-point margin. That would translate to an electoral majority and probably electoral landslide for Hillary Clinton.
Margin of error, they mean margin of error. This could be tight, or it could be a landslide for Hillary.
Okay, so everybody is saying, most analysts are saying that Hillary Clinton's going to win in a landslide and that Ohio won't much matter this time around.
If this collapse of support among women that you talked about in Senator, if that spreads among women voters all across the country, he's going to lose by a landslide, and they could lose the Senate and the House.
GOP officials now fear that if Donald Trump loses by a landslide, he could take down the congressional majorities with him.
Not only am I concerned about the presidential race, I'm concerned about what the impact on down ballot races, including
being overly cautious just because I'm trying to be a little risk averse in my predictions, but I think that she's going to have a very good night.
So the technical term for that, if she's anywhere near your prediction, would be blowout.
Landslide. I give a landslide. I don't know.
I would say a landslide.
I would say a landslide.
My bad.
That's a shellacking, actually. That's a shellacking.
All right, glad you're with us. Toll free, our telephone number, news roundup and information overload hours, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. I'm calling this the Forgotten Man election. Now, there is unfinished business, as I said at the beginning of the program. I am putting aside some of the unfinished business that I was ready to go. Linda, no. I mean, and my staff wants me to do this so bad that I know where you're all coming from, because look, Linda, Ethan, Jason, Lauren, they all know that if Donald Trump lost today, that it would be evisceration land for me today and the show. But this has never been, people that write about me and the people that know me know two different people. And those, were out there saying, Hannity's just doing this for rating. He's just doing this for money. Then you didn't listen to my narrative about what this election was about. I don't repeat the same statistics every day for a year if I don't believe them. This is about those people that have been left behind and that are suffering needlessly because their government has failed them. It's an epic fail. Hashtag epic fail. And it's now about, to me, this is an opportunity to right the ship, correct the wrong course we're on, and get those people in Michigan that spoke so loudly, in Wisconsin, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and get them moving again and put the rungs in the ladder back in the ladder so they can start climbing again. That's all they want is an opportunity. They're not looking for anything. All they want is government, get out of our way, let us do our thing, bring money into the country, let multinational corporations pour trillions into our cities. I would incentivize these multinational corporations, and I'll say this to Trump in the next interview I have with him. Let them, if they promise to build their factories in Michigan, if they promise to build their factories in Ohio and Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, you know what? Give them an even lower tax bracket if they agree to invest X number of billions of dollars in a particular state that is in desperate need of jobs for people. And that's all I've ever cared about. I honestly, the day that I hang up this microphone and walk away from that television camera, my hope is that this country's a little bit better off for our kids and grandkids. And anybody that says that I have any other motivation other than that knows nothing about who I am and what motivates me in my life. I'm the dishwasher guy. I'm the cook. I'm the busboy, the waiter, the bartender. I'm the house painter, the house paper hanger. I was really good at it. I'm the guy that laid tile, framed houses, fell off 3 stories doing roofing. I'm that guy. And those are the people that spoke yesterday. The forgotten men and women in this country that have suffered far too long. That has always been, to me, what this election is about. And when I looked at the policies of Trump, look, and the other thing I can say is to you and my audience that have been so loyal to me, and you give me this microphone every day, I don't take it for granted, that have supported me. The one thing I am proud at the end of this whole long, drawn-out process is the promises I made to you in the beginning to give all 17 presidential candidates on the Republican side as much airtime as they wanted on radio and TV. Some took advantage of it more than others. And then that I would have support who you chose, and I did so with all of my heart and my mind and soul. It's a good feeling to be able to say you've kept your word, you've kept your promise. Anyway, 2 guys are back with us today, and they were amazing yesterday for the final hour of the program. John McLaughlin, president, founder of McLaughlin & Associates. Doug Schoen, pollster, political analyst, Fox News contributor, and as a Democrat, taking a very bold stand that he said he couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Let me ask you both this question. Is that right, what I'm saying? Do you see this as I do, that this is the forgotten man election?
Yes, I do, Sean. This is not about ideology or partisanship. It's about rejection of politics as usual. And I don't think people have been embracing you and Donald Trump separately and collectively because of any sense of, left, right. It's a sense that things in America aren't working, government's not working, and that people have been left out and they're seeking a voice, and ultimately that's what Donald Trump has done.
And by the way, this is people of all backgrounds.
Correct.
If I heard one more MSNBC commentator, for the few seconds I tuned in there, it was always about racism. This is about helping, and Republicans better take this opportunity, and I hope Donald Trump follows up on his new deal for black Americans, because they have been forgotten more than anybody. Their schools are the worst, their cities are the most violent, and we have done nothing to solve the problems that exist in terms of economic growth and education and safety and security. And it's a national disgrace what President Obama, for example, let happen in his home city of Chicago alone in the last 8 years with nearly 4,000 dead and 3,000 shot this year. John McLaughlin, I leaned on you a lot yesterday when I needed information. I needed quite often throughout the night. And you actually, like you did with Bibi, you nailed this. You deserve a lot of credit. You told me exactly how this would play out, and it came out the way you did. And between you and all the elections in Israel that you have run, you have my trust and admiration as one of the few good guys in polling. And Doug actually saw it, too, at the end.
Well, you bring out the best in me, but it's still up to the people.
By the way, I'm glad I didn't ask your stupid brother who never shows up on time.
He'll come if you ask him, but just like Doug, I think Clinton lost the race when she didn't hire Doug to run the polling for them, but that's just as well, because Doug was giving good advice for Donald Trump, if he's listening to your program, for months now. He was saying it was a change campaign. And what's interesting is we have a national poll when we asked people who voted yesterday. We did our post-election, and we asked between Clinton and Trump who represents real change and reform, and it's Trump, 48-33. And you had 63% of the country saying country's on the wrong track. They want smaller government, 55-31. Obamacare, they disapproved 53%, only 44 approved. The plurality of voters said it was bad for them, 46-39. And all during the campaign, I had inside knowledge because I was looking at polls. So when you're asking me what the odds are, I'm like, we can win this if we got the turnout on Election Day. And even when we were on the phone yesterday or on the interview with you, we're saying we've got to get out the vote here. And I think a lot of your listeners reacted and probably opened up their Facebook accounts and their Twitter accounts and got their friends out. And they didn't want to. They didn't want to let the establishment win again, because what Trump did yesterday was he united the Rust Belt with the Sun Belt. And when you look at where the votes came from, the heartland of the United States, including states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, still he's leading there, Wisconsin. They united with states like Georgia that they thought were in play that wasn't in play, and basically sent Washington a message that they're out of touch and we're going to do things differently.
If Washington takes any other message than what you just said here, they have made a profound mistake.
Sean, this is the greatest political upset in American political history, certainly in my lifetime, and I go back to the mid-'50s. I can only tell you that this is as loud a message as you just said to Washington, the political class, both parties, about what the American people are speaking about. To me, this is bigger than Brexit. It is bigger than any upset that I've ever seen in my political life. Kudos to you and, of course, John. But let me, in a rare moment of bipartisanship for this program, say, Sean, without your singular backing and understanding and operationalizing what people like John and I have said, there would not have been a Donald Trump.
Well, you're very kind, but I don't take any of that seriously, as you know, Doug.
You should.
Well,
you should.
Absolutely. Doug's absolutely right.
But you know something, because this is what my belief system is. I at the end of the day, I feel like I'm more blessed, luckier than I've ever deserved, and I'm still that guy that was on a ladder. I'm still that guy that worked in the restaurant. And, it breaks my heart when I throw those numbers around. And from my attitude today, as much as people want to celebrate, that's not where my head or my heart is. I want to roll up my sleeves and get to work and get about the business of making some real profound difference and change so this country is on a much better trajectory for the future. That's where my heart and soul has always been.
People were saying, get on with it. Advance this country.
And now you're going to have the real challenge of the establishment in Washington. They don't want to quit. You saw it last night when they were holding back the calls on Trump.
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh. It was
like we're up in Florida, call it. And
they wouldn't call Georgia for 50 hours, and he won by a landslide, for crying out loud.
Right. And it's like either they were in disbelief or they couldn't believe it. And during the day, I told you that their exit polls would be wrong, because I worked for CBS when they had exit polls, and I was like, they're the wrong models. And the exit polls, from what I gather, were wrong yesterday. But that's the establishment. That's just a symptom of what's going to go on right now when Donald Trump, as he's thinking about policies and ideas that he believes in, that he said he was running on, the establishment's going to fight him. And it's going to be Republicans as well as Democrats. And what he needs to do is put people around him who, when the bureaucrats in Washington say, oh, you can't do that, he needs to surround himself with people that say, no, this is how we're going to do it, just like Ronald Reagan did. And and make the changes that the people voted for.
You know, I got to tell you both something here, that I think the job of fixing this country is, on the one hand, hard, but on the other hand, it's very, very simple. And I think Donald Trump's success is probably going to be rooted in him keeping a, to-do list and checking off. Okay, we started building the wall. Okay, we now have a system in place to vet refugees. Okay, now we're going to put our tax cuts. We'll have 3 tax brackets, the lowest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world. Check, 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 check. Okay, I'm getting rid of the burdensome regulations. Okay, we're going to start healthcare savings accounts. Okay, we're going to become energy independent. Oh, and we're going to send education back to the states. You guys take care of it. Done. I honestly think it's that simple, but dealing with Washington makes it, a million times harder.
With a congressional majority and Democrats who understand what these election results mean, the opposite of the sound bites you played earlier, I suspect there can be, should be, and will be bipartisan cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. It's amazing. You guys have been amazing throughout this process. And you know what? Both of you, too, have been friends throughout the process. There were times you guys both saw me getting the crap beaten out of me, and I'd get either a note or a call, or Doug would pat me on the shoulder and laugh and say, "You okay?" And I really appreciate your friendship. And, let's get about the business of getting Americans back to work.
Absolutely. Well said, Sean. I know I'm speaking for John in saying it's been a great pleasure.
It's been a great run, and it's not our last, guys. We're not done. We got a lot of work ahead.
Thanks very much.
All right, when we get back, guys, wide open telephones, toll-free on this post-election edition of the Sean Hannity Show. President-elect Donald J. Trump beating the odds, beating those prognosticators, beating the establishment of the Republican Party, the establishment of the Democratic Party, the establishment, the globalist establishment, the media establishment. This was no easy task.
Hannity Headline, a bite-sized version of the show that you can take with you everywhere you go. To sign up today for Hannity Headlines, go to Hannity.com. Stay in touch with the Hannity faithful. Join the message board at Hannity.com.
All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. Hannity tonight, 10 Eastern, Fox News. I can't believe, I'm not even going to get into the media yet. I am going to reserve some time. If Van Jones last night, this is a white lash. And how wrong these people were, and how wrong the pollsters were. And how abusively biased and how off the hook these people on these other news channels have been. And the exposure of WikiLeaks and how they're all colluding with Hillary. We have a massive informational crisis. I've got to deal with it, but in its due time, it's on my agenda. And we are going to expose this so that there will be no doubt in anybody's mind who is responsible, who lies, who deceives, who colludes, and who pretends to be fair, balanced, objective, and who is really in the pocket of the left in this country. Because you need to know, these people have literally betrayed your trust when they say they're objective, when they say they're news people, and then they end up being the biggest advocates, and they're providing questions, and they're seeking out questions for their opponents. CNN is the worst of all of them. They have no credibility after this election. None. And they've been exposed. All right, but we'll get to that. We'll save that for the days and weeks to come. We'll have plenty of time even before Thanksgiving to get to all of that. All right, let's get to our busy telephones as we say hi to Jeannie is in Florida. Jeannie, hi, how are you? And welcome to the program.
Hi, Sean. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'll make this real quick. First off, I want to thank God for showing favor to Donald Trump for winning the election. I want to thank you because you are an honorable man and you walk in your integrity, something that is unheard of in today's society.
You're very kind. I don't deserve your kind words, but thank you.
Yes, you do, Sean. Yes, you do, because you stood up for the American people.
That's
you stood up for the honor of the American people, and that is beyond words.
You know, that's why I call it the forgotten man election.
And it's the truth. And I want to thank Donald Trump for having the courage because the battle is not over yet, because we all know there's going to be people that are going to fight him every turn of this way. But you know what? The people of Florida love him. When I was out yesterday, I live off of 19, which is a major highway here. I did not see one Hillary sign. I did not talk to one person, and I talked to a lot of people, men, women, young, old, black, white, that didn't believe in Trump because they knew he stood for America, a country that we all love. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you for the people that work with you, because I know.
Am I hearing you? I hear you're getting emotional. This really has impacted you.
It is, because my father was a bombardier during the Second World War.
Yeah.
And he fought for this country, and I couldn't see it go down the tubes. The people that voted for Trump, as bad as they say, were deplorables. We love God. We love our country. We love our neighbors. The people that are for Hillary do not realize that our freedom was at stake, more so than jobs and everything else. This is something that we love about our country, and we're willing to help everybody. But charity starts at home, and you got to take care of your own first.
Jeannie, you are extremely articulate, and I cannot add to your beautiful comments.
Well,
you have articulated what this election was about as well as anybody. Thank you for your hard work. You're right. We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm very sober of that reality of how daunting this task is to get the government on track. And, I also will promise this. If Republicans, if Donald Trump, if they start veering off course, you will hear about it here. If the promises aren't being kept, whatever it is, we're holding everybody accountable, because this is about really saving the country that we all love and love so dearly and fixing the damage that has been done in the last 8 years. Linda was laughing at me today because she said, you do know, put your mic on because you said it to me like you always do. You do know that the columns were already written. Biggest loser, Hannity, if Trump lost. She goes, you would not be having a good day today if Trump lost. I said, when you really think about it, because when did you first start working for me?
10 years ago.
Amazing. So you were with us when we did all the Obama. What did people say in 2007 and 2008? You
were wrong. That Obama was amazing.
And how many people said my career is over?
I can't believe you're going against the grain. This is, he's going to be the savior. And you were like, no, he's with a freaking domestic terrorist.
And remember, even Republicans kept saying that, I'm ruining my career. I'm going off the deep end.
Reservation.
I'm on the edge of the branch, and the branch is about to break. And, and you said to me, in a different way, we did the same thing this year. And the reason we do it is because it's what we believe. And because this is real and sincere. That's the right thing to do. Well, because it's my true belief.
But it's also the truth. Bill Ayers was a domestic terrorist. You were informing the public. Mm-hmm. Stephanopoulos was unaware as well until you gave him the question. Reverend Wright was preaching hate from the pulpit. You informed the audience. And then he had to backtrack and say, I didn't really know him that well. He only sat there for 20 years.
There was a point in this campaign where we were being accused of being unfair to the other candidates. And Linda was the one that was so angry that she went and she actually went back in our archives, measured down to the minute how much time we had given Marco and how much time we'd given Ted and how much time we'd given Rand and how much time we'd given Trump and how much time we'd given this one and that one. And, it ended up that, Ted Cruz by a pretty long mile had more airtime than anybody. And I like Ted Cruz.
In fairness, Nick was a huge help on that. We worked together on that. We put it all together, and we dovetailed in with TV. We dovetailed in the time from TV, airtime, video time, audio time, articles written online, social. It was ridiculous. And Ted Cruz was the winner.
I'm proud of the fact that we made a promise to this audience. And at CPAC 2015, March of 2015, we're going to give everybody airtime. Some people took us up on it. Some wouldn't come on the program. And Donald Trump only wanted to do TV. He had, I think it was third or fourth in terms of radio time. Well, until later when it was just down to two people. But, and we gave, and some people wouldn't come on. We can't make you come on. And then we said we'd support the winner. And we went all in for the winner. And I'm glad that I made a promise to this audience, and I kept it. Dana is in Irving, Texas. Dana, hi, how are you? And welcome to the Sean Hannity Show.
I'm doing wonderful. I am so happy we are making America great again. We came together as Americans. We voted. Our voices were heard. And I'm just hoping now that, that the Congress and the senators work with Donald Trump so that we can all come together, because we do need our jobs back. And it's so ironic because people of all races are coming into work is like, this is a great day, secretly telling you they voted for this man. And it's like, he voted for him? He voted? We like, yes, and it's all colors. I mean, it just wasn't one. People love Americans, and we love what he stood for. And I'm glad that the news and the people see what Americans want. And I'm just really ecstatic.
Listen, one thing I'm really hoping the Republican Party capitalizes on and follows Donald Trump's lead. I am so sick and tired of every election cycle of conservatives, Republicans, you're racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, Islamophobic. I'm sick of it all. And nobody in the media really paid attention, but Donald Trump went into the black community. And by the way, so did Rand Paul. In fairness, Dan, Rand Paul led the way on this, and he was going to these historically black colleges and giving speeches and getting really good response. But when Donald Trump came up with a new deal for the African-American community in this country, I love that plan. I want that plan followed up by every Republican, because I'm a little sick and tired. Every 4 years the Democrats, they come calling in the black neighborhoods and give us your vote and give us your vote. And they've done nothing to help the schools, the safety, drugs, all the no jobs available for teenagers. It's horrible. And it's time to revitalize the inner cities in America. And then maybe we won't see such the great divide as we saw last night. All right, these are the numbers from Philly. These are the numbers from Detroit. And here's the rest of the state. And maybe if the Republicans can show that their plans are going to help people and explain it,
hopefully that they
explain it, but do it now. Don't do it 2 years from now. And then say it, do it, and tell them before the next election you did it. And then you know what? The demographics in the country can be shifted dramatically.
That's right, because they have our attention. We really voted for them more than I realized. I was like, they voted for them? People knew I was, but everybody was riding up under the radar. But now we're coming out, so they really need to reach out to the community, black community, because they have our attention. And we're Democrats. But we voted Republicans because we want to save America. Hooray, make America great again.
God bless you, Dana. You know what? Listen, what's going to happen? And I honestly think this is going to be a transformational moment. Think about this. If Donald Trump can really say, all right, we spend $11,600 per student on education, the highest per capita than any industrialized nation. But we're 20, 22, 26, reading, writing, math, science, whatever it is. And you say to the parents, okay, we're going to give the money back to your state, give it back to your local community. You build the schools where your kids are going to get the best education. Get the federal government the hell out of the way. And you think how, once we get, if we believe in the talent that God put in every human soul, and then we water it, education to bring forth from within is the Latin interpretation. If we can go with that mentality and fix our school system, then it's a rising tide lifts all boats. If I didn't have summer jobs as a kid, I would have been hanging out with all my dopey friends, drinking, and far worse than drinking. But I had summer jobs. Well, 60% of the black community, there's no teenage summer jobs. It's ridiculous. And what does that mean? That means they would be doing what I would be doing, hanging out with my dopey friends and getting in trouble and not developing skills that you're going to need later in life and learning something. Maybe you're working for a carpenter. Maybe you're working for a plumber. Learn some skills that'll be valuable in the course of your life. Learn how to deal with people, because the better you deal with people in life, the more successful you're going to be. This is all so simple, and politicians make it all so complicated. And TV, analysts are just so dumb, in their chauffeur-driven limousines and their big mansions. They're all overpaid brats. All of them. I mean, the vast majority of them. How many of them do I know? Hannity, you're one of them. No, I'm not really. Honestly, and this is like the funniest thing. Linda, what do I get made fun of the most at this studio?
Your clothes.
Why?
Because you look like a bum.
What do I dress in every day? Uniform. What is
Every
my uniform?
day you wear the same. First of all, it's always jeans, some sort of.
I had the same pair of shoes for the year.
What do you call them? You call them tennis. What do you call them? Tennis shirts?
Like a golf shirt. Like
Whatever. It's a T-shirt. He was wearing a T-shirt and jeans, and sometimes the color changes, but it's usually black T-shirts.
And what do I? That's what I wore my entire life. Why should I change?
And then you eat Campbell's soup
every day
from
for
a
lunch.
can.
I love it.
That you pour into a bowl.
It's only 106.
The same bowl.
No, I used a different bowl because I lost my bowl. Somebody stole it. I bet you Treat, Lauren's dog, as you said, not a service dog, because that dog's too dumb to pass the test. He's not going to make it. But the upside is Treat is going to be your
Is
dog.
today the day to bash Treat? Can we just give Treat a little life today?
She's not even here to defend herself today.
Okay, what did Treat do when I walked in the studio the last 3 times? She, without me doing a thing,
she just wants to make America great again, Sean. She's excited. Give her a break.
Lauren trained service dogs, but Treat's not going to make it, and I'm just trying to prepare her. And the good news is she'll be able to keep Treat as her own dog, and Treat is an amazing dog. But Treat is never, ever, under any circumstances, cut out to be a service dog, because Treat's going to jump all over the person.
Listen, Trump won the election. Treat can pass her service dog test.
All right, we'll see. All right, listen, don't forget Hannity tonight, 10 Eastern, Fox News Channel. I'm going to explain with the graphics why this happened yesterday.